Hi, my name is Dumitru and I want to introduce you today to Agilent 33120A 15 MHz function / arbitrary waveform generator. In order to start this unit, I have to press the power on-off button and wait for the by default values. These default values are sine wave for the waveform, frequency 1 kHz and the amplitude 100 mV peak to peak. As you will see later, by default, the internal impedance of this generator is 50 ohm. Let's assume now, if I want to change the waveform, I have to select the desired waveform from these buttons. Let's assume square wave, and the waveform is indicated here on the screen. If I select triangle, this triangle will be shown on the screen. If I select ramp, this ramp will be selected as well, and so forth. I can select noise and I can select arbitrary waveform. Let's assume that I go back to the sine wave, and by default this frequency, as I said, was 1 kHz and amplitude 100 mV peak to peak. I will show you how to select a desired frequency. Let's assume, for instance, 10.7 MHz. In order to do so, I have to press frequency, enter number 10.7, and the unit is megahertz, so I press this button. Now I have 10.7 MHz. Let's assume that I want to change the amplitude level from initial 100 mV to 500 mV. So in order to do so, I press amplitude, enter number 500, shift second unit millivolt peak to peak, and I have 500 mV peak to peak selected. Let's assume now that I want to select high Z as impedance, for internal impedance for this generator. In order to do so, I have to press shift, enter. I have to press this arrow button until I will enter in system menu. After, I have to press this button and I have to go in parameter, and by default, as I mentioned before, the internal impedance was 50 ohm. In order to change to high Z, I have to press this arrow key, and after I will select enter, and now I have high Z internal impedance. So the generator is working in fact like a current generator. As you'll notice, the amplitude now is double, and it's normal because this generator now will provide to the exterior the full voltage of the machine. So basically, if I want to go back to 500 mV, I have simply to select from these arrows the desired digit to be active, and I have to change back to 500 mV. If I want a different amplitude, I can select a different digit to change. For example, if I want 625 mV, I simply can select 6 from this rotary knob. I can go and select the next digit, and I rotate until I have 2, and also now I should select the third digit and I have to go to 5. So I have 625 mV peak to peak and high Z. If I want, for instance, a different amplitude, I can select in the similar manner, or I can go back to the amplitude, enter number option, amplitude, enter number, let's say 855 mV. I have to enter 855, shift mV, and I have the new value of the amplitude. Definitely the frequency remain 10.7 MHz as initially selected. Frequency also can be changed from this rotary knob, actuating a desired digit, like this one, for instance. So the maximum frequency is 15 MHz. I can select this one, and after I press this one, So the last digit is actuated, so this is the maximum frequency of this generator. The minimum one will be like 100 over hertz. So it's possible to generate very low frequencies, so we can test, for instance, biomedical equipment in senior projects. Thank you very much.